محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وعملا وفقها في الدين يا رب العالمين وألحقنا بعبادك الصالحين. Last week we done 4 types of istihsan. Istihsan is whenever you basically leave rational thinking. These 6 instances, or 6 types of instances, where a person is bound to leave rational thinking when it comes to Sharia. Okay? Qiyas, we say qiyas, analogy. We leave analogy. So here we stopped on istihsan bil darura. There was one example left. I gave you an example, a woman who the husband didn't leave anything for her. In that situation, generally 4 months and 10 days she has to stay inside her house without leaving the house after her husband passes away. This is the Sharia of Islam. This is the beauty of Islam. That 4 months and 10 days, a woman must stay inside the house, mourning over her husband. This is the great respect and superiority that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives in certain ways, of course, to the man. Unfortunately, nowadays it's opposite. Okay? I'm not going to go into that. Anyway, the point is here, in that case where there's no money left for her at all for maintenance allowance, she doesn't have any money, she has to go out to work. So in that darura circumstance, she can leave the house. Okay? So that's an example of hukum shar'i being ridden over. Why? Because of a darura. Okay? So we don't use qiyas here. We can't use normal rational thinking here. It's not going to work. Why? Because a woman, she's supposed to starve to death. There you go. She has to look after her children. She has to look after her household. She has to get the house running. But in general cases, yes, she's supposed to stay in her iddah for 4 months and 10 days. Another example that they give of istihsan bil darura is in normal circumstances, a man or a woman is not allowed to show the awrah. A woman's awrah is her whole body. Some ulama said except her face and her hands. Okay? Other ulama said because of fitna, her face and hands are also included, because her face is the majority of her beauty comes from her face. That's why when you go to see a bride, what do? Do you look at the feet or do you look at the face? Look at the face, isn't it? So, this is why generally our subcontinent ulama are very strict when it comes to the face. That's why we have the niqab. Afghanistan, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh. Niqab is a norm. Saudi as well. Okay? Couple of other countries it's not normal. Like Syria. I went and studied in Syria. It wasn't normal for them to wear niqab. Egypt as well, same thing. Okay? So some countries, they're more stricter than others when it comes to these issues. But anyway, the point is, if it's a very attractive woman, ideally she should, according to all the ulama, she should cover her face. Okay? Especially if she's very young. If she's an older, elderly woman who's a sassy, who's over the age of menopause, she's 50, 60 years old, she's not something mushtahad, there's no desire towards her. In that circumstance, it's not a big deal. Okay? The face is not a big deal. Anyway, I'm not going to go into that. The point here is satar of the awrah. Covering the awrah is generally, the hukum of the sharia is that it must be covered at all times. Okay? The only exception is going to be, for example, you had an accident on your thigh. Now you have to expose, as a man, I'm talking about a man. As a man or a woman, now you have to expose your thigh area to the doctor. Okay, in that instance it's allowed. Why? Because of darura. Because of absolute necessity. Okay? So in those cases, a woman can expose her body. In other cases, for example, nowadays, unfortunately, there's many things going on, beauty parlor, they're doing waxing, they're doing all these sorts of things, absolutely haram. Absolutely haram. Especially around the private areas, because remember, the private area of a woman to a woman is from her navel to her knee as well. From the navel to her knee, a woman is not, a Muslim woman is not allowed to see another Muslim woman's between her navel and her, including her knees. She's not allowed to see. Okay? Between themselves. Between us is different. Between us, we can't see the whole body. We shouldn't be seeing all the whole body. Okay? Khair. So this is an example of darura. Daruratan, you have to show your awra. But general case, the hukum of Sharia is that you must cover your awra. Then we go into istihsan bil maslaha. Istihsan bil maslaha, the example that maslaha refers to making things easy, more or less, because of the common good. For example, traffic lights. If there wasn't traffic lights, what would happen? Did Sharia tell you to put traffic lights? do you understand? This is maslaha. So maslahatan, the state decided that we must have a yellow light, an amber light, a green light. Okay? A red light, sorry. If you didn't have that, there'd be chaos. This is maslaha. Okay, out of maslaha it is done. It is not because it's found in Sharia. This is why I said every single person can claim to be a muhaddith and a mujtahid. But when it comes to this chapter, nobody can become a mujtahid. Not even Sheikh Salih al-Fawzan and Sheikh Uthaymeen. Why? Because you can't apply it. There's no hadith here. There's no tafsir here. There's no Quran here. How are you going to apply to day-to-day lives? You understand? So, these chapters, you have to conform to one madhab. It's not possible. It's not possible to follow Sharia. There is no other way. You're going to have to follow one of the madhabs. Khair. An example that they give here is a recent example, our normal example. For example, we are Muslims living in a land of the kuffar, land of non-Muslims. Election is something that is highly, especially when it comes to seeking post, especially nowadays, where a person is seeking a post that he doesn't deserve. He's seeking a post that he himself doesn't have the credentials. We can see a very clear example of Trump. I'm not going to go far, but the point is, you understand. There's leaders in positions, there's imams in positions, there's huffaz in positions that they're not supposed to be in. There's committee members that are in masajid that they are not supposed to be there. They cannot be the judges of a'imma, of ulama, and of huffaz. They themselves haven't perfected Surah Fatiha. They themselves don't know Juz Amma at the basic. Just Juz Amma. So if the imam is missing, at least he can cover the salah. Not even that. But they can be the committee members and make 100 comments and do many things to the imams. Unfortunately, this is the situation. Okay? From what we see, anyway. And when it comes to money, Allahu Akbar. Slaughterhouse for the imams. Anyway, so in general cases, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam forbade seeking position. Seeking position, especially when a person doesn't have the credentials. Okay? Now in election, what happens is, everyone, every Tom, Dick and Harry must go and represent every community. We as Muslims, we need somebody as representatives. Otherwise, what's going to happen is, everyone will monopolize all the elections and we won't have a say. Our whole community will be put in such a circumstance where our voice is not heard at all. So in that circumstance, it's out of maslaha, it's allowed to stand for election. Is that understood? Out of maslaha, it's allowed. Otherwise, we won't have representation. Muslims will have no representation at all. If you think the situation is bad now, we're going to be worse without Lutfur Rahman. If you think it's bad now, it's going to be worse without Sadiq Khan, possibly. Allahu Alam. Anyway, the last type of istihsan is istihsan bil qiyas al khafi. This is the theory of the Sharia. This is why we're going through it. Ramadan is a time when we can learn, inshallah. Okay? Not just listen to the virtues. Virtues, alhamdulillah, whoever prays Taraweeh and Qiyamul Layl and with the Imam until he finishes, and mashallah, we're all fasting. Anyone who fasts the whole month of Ramadan, man sama Ramadana imanan wa ihtisaban ghufira lahu ma taqaddama, all your past sins will be forgiven. Why? Because you have iman. We all Muslims. And the other condition is you have hope. Everyone has hope. All of us have hope. That's why we're living. We're living as Muslims because of hope. Our hope is Jannah, isn't it? Our hope is to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment. Our hope is for Rasulullah to make shafa'ah for us and to give us the drink of Kawthar, isn't it? So, hope is there. And whoever has that hope, inshallah, all your sins will be forgiven. Huh? Whether you read Taraweeh and you fast, alhamdulillah, all your sins will be forgiven. And then if you find Laylatul Qadr, even a bigger bonus. Okay? So, istihsan bil qiyas al khafi. Istihsan bil qiyas al khafi refers to there's certain instances where the qiyas, some qiyas will be overridden by others. So some type of rational thinking or analogy will be overridden by others. For example, they give the example of a lion. The lion, its saliva is najis. Why? It's a predatory animal. Can you apply the saliva, the mouth of the lion, can you apply the analogy of that to a crow, for example, or a falcon or an eagle? Can you? So the ulama said, look, there's slight differences here. Yes, you can use a falcon, a crow is a predatory animal as well, but it's a bird. It's a bird. The difference is one uses its beak. So the najasa, the beak is considered a bone. Beak is considered a bone. So the impurity, the filth, doesn't go and touch the bone when he's eating from worms or whatever he's eating from. Okay? So therefore, this type of qiyas will not work. Okay? Will not work. So this is istihsan bil qiyas al khafi. There's more examples that the author has given. We'll leave it at that, inshallah. So basically, the point here was not all predatory animals will have the same hukum. The saliva will not have the same hukum, especially when it comes to birds. Because why? Birds use beaks to hunt instead of, well, they use paws, but at the same time, claws, but at the same time, they have the beak. So the beak will the mouth be najis? The mouth will not be najis because the beak is considered a bone. And bones are generally pure. Generally pure. That's the hukum. Khair. Next we go on to another chapter. This is Masalih Mursalah. Masalih Mursalah is, I already explained it. Maslaha. Masalih is the plural form. Something which is not mentioned in Quran and Hadith, again, and it's basically down to us or down to the ulama to figure out and give the explanation. To keep things in order. To keep things in order. Now we'll see that in Masalih Mursalah, there's different things. Okay? Let's go through it, inshallah. They give the example of a coin used for currency. Or, for example, a jail used as prisons. Or a system to register land or houses, for our sake. If you didn't have this system, there would be complete corruption. You don't have no jails, there'll be corruption. Did Sharia tell you to put a jail? No. Do you understand? Did the Quran and Hadith say there's a jail? There's no jail. There's no jail in the Quran and Hadith. Okay? Were coins, like the coins, the fake coins that we use, the British pounds and the US dollars and the European euros, was that existent? That wasn't existent. They used to deal with actual gold and silver, isn't it? So this fake money, or nowadays it's even worse, it's digital currency, isn't it? So you don't even know if you have money. Your money is according to your the numbers that they show you on your bank balance. One day you can wake up and everything's gone, like China. You can fight for your money, you don't have money, everything's digitalized. So anyway, the point is, traffic control, traffic control like the red lights and everything I said, registering land, jail, all these are examples, or currency, using it as money. All of these are masalih mursalah. They are those things which are not mentioned in Quran and Hadith, but they are used in common, so common that you have to give leeway for them to be used. Otherwise, life will become very difficult. Okay? According to the Malikis, Masalih Mursalah is a separate dalil for Sharia. They have a separate category that it's called Masalih Mursalah, and a separate proof in the Sharia. According to the Hanafis, there are conditions to apply to Masalih Mursalah. You can't just use whichever form of thinking that you come up with. Okay? So some of the conditions that they give is, it must be logically understood. A jail is totally logically understood, isn't it? Currency is logically understood. Traffic control, logically understood. Again, chaos, absolute chaos. Second condition, it must be practiced, not imaginary. It must be practiced in society. If it's not being practiced, there's no point of inventing new things and applying things. Okay, if it's commonly practiced in society, then only it can be applied. Something imaginary in your brain cannot be applied. Okay, so Masalih Mursalah cannot apply to something which is imaginary in people's brains. The expediency, the maslahah must be for a common cause that is for general masses, not for certain people only, not for only disabled people, SEN kids, or ADHD kids, or autism kids. No, this must be for general public, for everyone. Something which can be applied all over the board, in general case. Exceptions do not make the rule, okay? Exceptions cannot make the rule. Just like, for example, upon us is zakat, but if a child, he's an exception. Is he within the rule? He's not within the rule. He's out of the rule. He's an exception to the rule, isn't it? The fourth condition of maslahah being applied, Masalih Mursalah being applied, is when Quran and Hadith clearly, they considered it. For the example that is given is nikah. In nikah, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says it is a means of lowering your gaze, ghaddul basar, and protecting of your private parts, hifdhul farj. So Rasulullah gave, and this hadith is in Musnad Imam Ahmad 4023, hadith number 4023. So here, it's Rasulullah himself gave the reasoning why nikah should be done. Number one is lowering your gaze, not looking at ghair mahram. And number two, protecting your private part, not falling into zina. Not falling into zina of the private parts. So this, something which is stated already in the Sharia, this is called Masalih Mu'tabarah. Mu'tabarah is basically something which is considered in Sharia because it's already stated in Sharia. Whereas Masalih Mursalah is not stated. There's no Quran and Hadith about it. You understand? That's Masalih Mursalah. And there will be another one which is Masalih Mughallat. It's a wrong one. Why? Because something which contravenes and contradicts something that is within Sharia, already found in Sharia, will become problematic. You can't use that as common basis. For example, free mixing. Free mixing is something which is absolutely haram in our Sharia. Absolutely haram. Some of the ulama, unfortunately, in this day and age, especially looking at the Americans, have become very relaxed when it comes to this. Our ulama are very strict when it comes to this. Especially our weddings. Our weddings is the biggest example. That's the biggest example of our biggest test in our life. And this is something which is Masalih Mukhallat. This is something which is completely wrong. You cannot use it. You cannot use it as a common basis that just because everyone does mixed weddings, I have to do mixed weddings. This contravenes Allah's laws directly. Hadith and Quran. You understand? So mixed weddings are something which we must navigate away as much as we can. As much as we can. No matter whether we're uncles, whether we're sassas, whether we're mamas, whether we're hufas, whatever we are, we must try our best to encourage, whether it's the bride or the groom, to have separate halls. Or at least a covering in between. We know we're men. Men understand what goes through our heads. Now imagine you got girls that are 18, 20, 24-year-old dressing up full lenga. What's going to happen to a man? Huh? What's going to happen to a man? He's playing with fire, bhai. He's playing with fire. You know it and I know it. Anyone that has testosterone knows it. We're different. We're made different. We're visual creatures. That's why قُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ يَغُضُّوا. Why didn't Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say قُلْ لِلْمُؤْمِنَاتِ يَغُضُّوا first? Their eyes are not the same as our eyes. Our brain is different. Men's brains and men's eyes visually were different, scientifically as well. It's proven now after 1400 years. After 1400 years, it has to be proven by science in order for us to apply our Sharia, unfortunately, in this day and age. That's how stupid we've become. We don't want to listen to Sharia. When Sharia says something, we make istislam. You understand what istislam is? Complete submission. It's not about yes, no, maybe, I'm thinking about it. No. Allah said it, Rasul said it, and end of story. If the ulama agreed upon that understanding, then you apply it. Khalas. No ifs and buts. Okay? For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself says about wine. Another example of Masalih Mursalah. يسألونك عن الخمر والميسر. We've done this in Tarawih the other day, isn't it? يسألونك عن الخمر والميسر. قل هو فيه إثم كبير ومنافع للناس. There's a great sin in it, but there's a benefit for the people as well. There's some benefits in wine. Allah agrees. Allah is telling us. But the harm of it is more dangerous for you and me as humankind than the good of it. That's why Allah made it haram. That's why Allah made it haram. So this is Masalih Mursalah, something which you won't be able, because it contravenes Sharia. It goes against, and it is in complete confliction with the Sharia. Then we go on to urf. Urf, custom. Can custom be the basis of many things? It can. Sometimes customs can be used, sometimes customs cannot be used within the Sharia. Sometimes Sharia gives permission to look into customs of people. If you're doing something in the whole society is one way, then Sharia generally will allow it, unless it's not contravening. Again, like I gave the example of weddings, and I gave the example of wine. Okay? As long as it doesn't contravene Sharia, generally there's leeway. Generally Sharia is vast. It's not so rigid. Okay? So urf is the custom or the common action that everyone does in a society. Okay? In a society. There's types of urf. The ulama say there's qawli urf and there's fi'li urf. Qawli urf, something that is common. For example, the word laham, the word meat. Within the word meat, some communities consider fish to be from the meat kind. Some communities they don't, isn't it? So in a community, where you're in a community that they consider fish to be considered meat, that's their custom. You understand? That word, so urf, qawli refers to a word. So customary, something that is custom, common, according to word. So in the word laham, in the word meat, is fish included or excluded? In some communities is included, some communities is excluded. So the hukum of the Sharia will depend on the community that considers fish to be considered meat or not. You understand? It will apply accordingly, respectively. Then we have, for example, for the word divorce, instead of divorce, a person says, for example, you are haram upon me. To his wife, he says, you are haram upon me, and he means it to be divorce. Did that divorce fall? According to some communities, that's the same as divorce. You are haram upon me is the same as divorce in some communities. So you'll have to look at the community itself to judge this. Is this a common action? Is this something that is taken as so common that everyone considers the word haram to be the same as divorce? Then, for example, another example that they gave for us, for tullabul ilm, a student of knowledge who is sitting in a physical class in front of the teacher, is he in a 6-year program, in an Alimiya program, or in Azhar University in a 4-year university program, Sharia, Kulliyah to Sharia, is he considered an actual talib al-ilm? Whereas back in the days, it was more to do with sohbah. It was to do with accompanying the scholar himself, accompanying someone who's extremely senior and extremely knowledgeable in all the sciences, or he's a specialist. Okay? But is that considered a talibul ilm nowadays or not? Nowadays, talibul ilm is on Telegram, face to face. It's not even in front of the ustad anymore. There's no tarbiyah anymore. It's just knowledge. It's academics now. Okay? So, is that considered a talibul ilm or not? That's for the people to decide. Custom that is considered an action. An action. For example, mahar or dowry. Mahar. In some communities, if you give part of the mahar, the woman is allowed to come to the husband's house. In some communities, it's like that, isn't it? Other communities, no, you have to give the full mahar before the woman can leave from her dad's house to her father's house. So the action will be considered. The customary action will be considered of that community. Likewise, guarantee is given with items nowadays, especially 30-day money-back guarantee. Look, one thing is the manufacturer gives you that leeway. He gives you for the satisfaction of your heart. That doesn't mean you must deceive that manufacturer. That an item is completely good. You, because you just didn't feel like it, you gave your old one and you kept the new one. Is that right? That's deception. That's absolute deception. Okay? This you must not do. I'm sure people used to do this back in the days with Argos. Isn't it? With Argos, they used to do it when it came out new. So the manufacturer, they give that leeway for your contentment of your heart as the buyer. Or for example, a fridge freezer, I'll give you 3 years, 5 years, parts guarantee, main parts. So this is from urf. This is something which is common in our society that is normally given. Okay? This is common urf now. And this is an action which is applied and existing in our society all the time. Then of course, we have urf am and urf khas. A custom that is am. For example, council tax. If you have a house, then you have to give council tax. Why? Because the land, actual land, the owner is somebody else, king or queen or whoever, isn't it? Eh? Khas would be, for example, the people of Iraq, they consider horses to be dabba, whereas the Arabic language, dabba, the word dabba is anything that walks the earth. It can be a human, it can be a spider, it can be anything that tramples the earth is a dabba. But according to Iraqis and the ulama of Iraq, they consider dabba to be in the meaning of horse only, not in the meaning of camel, not in the meaning of cattle. So you have to understand which terminology you're using. Okay? This is the importance of usulul fiqh. Okay? This is the importance of usulul fiqh. Otherwise, you're going to be misapplying things to different communities and you will not have a clue of what fiqh is. You can study Quran and Hadith your whole life, you'll have no understanding of how to apply it. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.